With that, I'd like to welcome Chair Kresha to the table. If you'd want to move forward, the chair will move House File 3217 to be laid over today. There may be an amendment to this, but I want to welcome, again, Chair Kresha to the Committee of Workforce, Labor, and Economic Development. We've got an interesting bill today, so look at your packets, folks. Welcome, Representative Kresha, and proceed with your bill, House File 3217.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I do have the A1 amendment, if I could move that as an author's amendment.
You sure can. Members,
I can't move it, but.
Yes, the chair will move the amendment for you. I don't have it. Let's see, what's it dated? What's it numbered? A1 amendment, thank you. Members, any questions about the A1 to put the bill in the shape the author would request? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? As amended, your House file is ready to go as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, members. Members, my introduction will be brief, but this is really about keeping promises. This is really about us as the legislature and the government fulfilling what we said we were going to do in programs to help companies that were going to carry out charters that we asked them to do, and this is in the biofuels incentive program. So when this legislation was put together, the idea was that companies could apply for this, and they had very rigorous steps and audits that they had to go through to prove that they were following these, and then there would be appropriations available for them to meet those through these incentives. That has been done by companies, that has been put together, but in our wisdom, we have stopped that, and the payments have stopped, and now we have companies sitting out there wondering what their next steps are, even though they're still carrying the charters of this bill. So with that, Mr. Chair, I have two testifiers who can speak to this way more succinctly than I can. But what I want you to think about as you're doing this is, what is our word really worth? As we put programs together and we ask people to do them, they do them on the incentives that we lay out in trying to solve many of our energy crises, and then we pull the rug out from under them. I don't think that's the right approach, and there's money to handle this. We can look at restoring this. So I'd like to turn it over to my testifiers, and I'll start.
Thank you, thank you, Representative Kresha. Again, I've got Brendan Jordan. Is that the first one up today? Mr. Jordan, welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you, Chair Baker and members. My name is Brendan Jordan. I am Vice President of Transportation and Fuels at the Great Plains Institute. I'm testifying in favor of House File 3217 on behalf of the Bioeconomy Coalition of Minnesota, which my organization convenes and facilitates. The coalition brings together everyone involved in the bioeconomy value chain for collective decision-making and action to educate, evaluate environmental impacts and benefits, and incentivize sustainable products to benefit our environment and grow our economy. We envision a thriving Minnesota bioeconomy based on bio-based products that benefit the environment, support communities, and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The Minnesota Bioincentive Program, which is the subject of this bill, has a strong track record of boosting Minnesota's economy and creating value across the bioeconomy value chain. Additionally, and really importantly, this program only makes payments to companies after production has already started. We like to refer to it as a boondoggle-proof program. It's a low-risk, high-reward investment for the state. There have been two separate studies by University of Minnesota Extension, the Center for Community Vitality. The second one, more recent one, found that for every dollar spent, the program has generated $407.10 for the state's economy and $8.90, again, per dollar invested in new tax collections. However, the program has been underfunded. This bill would allow the program to satisfy its obligations to claimants who have, again, already made investments in the state and achieve its intended goals by compensating companies that benefit the state and the environment. Thank you, members, for considering this legislation and for the opportunity to speak on it on behalf of this bill.
Thank you, Mr. Jordan. Appreciate your testimony. Next up, it looks like we have Tom Rodovich. Is that correct? Or Brian Werner?
Yeah.
Mr. Werner? Thank you. Welcome to the committee. Please introduce yourself and continue.
Chair Baker and members of the committee, for the record, my name is Brian Werner, and I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Biofuels Association, or MBA. On behalf of our 9 producer member facilities, I appreciate the opportunity to provide testimony in support of House File 3217, a bill to fully fund the bioincentive program. We thank Representative Crecia for bringing it forward. MBA members produce more from every kernel of corn than just traditional ethanol. They also manufacture several co-products, including dried distillers grains for animal feed, corn oil that goes to make biodiesel, renewable diesel, and sustainable aviation fuel, and most relevant to this bill, advanced biofuel known as corn kernel fiber ethanol. Corn kernel fiber ethanol is fermented from the non-edible fiber in the corn kernel rather than the sugars and starch. And as a cellulosic biofuel, it reduces life cycle greenhouse gas emissions by over 70% compared to gasoline. The intent of the Minnesota Bioincentive Program was to provide performance-based payments to encourage facilities to start new production of this lower carbon advanced biofuel. And many facilities responded by making investments, installing new equipment, utilizing new yeasts and enzymes, hiring more workers, and now produce corn kernel fiber ethanol. However, in recent years, reimbursement claims have outpaced appropriated funding, leading to partial reimbursements and unpaid claims. That's where this bill comes in. It would provide sufficient one-time funding to fulfill the state's commitment, fully reimburse all unpaid claims, and spur additional clean fuel production benefiting Minnesota's environment and economy. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you, Mr. Warner, for your testimony. Maybe before either Mr. Jordan or Mr. Warner leave, is there any questions that anybody has for the two testifiers at the table at this point? We can have you come back if we need to that, if we have any further questions, but thank you. I have another testifier on the list. Is Mr. Rodovich here? Tom Rodovich. Just want to make sure nobody else is here. Okay. Not seeing him. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to testify for or against this bill? Seeing none, we'll close testimony to member questions. Chair Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chair Crecia, the bill has not been heard in ag, and I guess before we would go forward, I'd want to make sure they'd be able to review it, because of course we don't have expertise in the program. Are you expecting to or looking for ag committee review of the bill at some point?
Chair Pinto? I'm sorry, Chair Crecia.
Thank you, Chair Pinto. If needed, I mean, everyone that I've talked to, Chair Anderson and Chair Torkelson as well, many people who are closely connected, they're very firmly behind this. They have been. If needed, I'll follow whatever path I need to get to. Sure. But as you know, timelines and deadlines where we are, I just need to get this moving.
Okay.
Chair Pinto, follow-up?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I probably will certainly want to check in with Chair Vang as well, obviously, because I feel like we're a bit of disadvantage to evaluate the substance of it. One thing that does jump out at me, and maybe you can correct me, but it looks like the funding would be entirely retrospective. Like it wouldn't change anybody's incentive to do anything going forward. It's just that these investments have been made, and you're saying that folks receive pro rata payments or partial payments, that sort of thing, and this would then top them up, or maybe in some cases didn't get a payment they were hoping to get. We have many programs where the demand exceeds the funds available, like many. And so I'm just trying to understand why this program in particular, and also, maybe one thing if you're saying going forward, because that would change incentives, but at this point, we're going to be spending dollars that are intended to increase investment, but then spending them on investments that have already been made, so it won't actually change anybody's behavior. Can you just help me understand that?
Chair Crecia?
Sure. Thank you, Chair Pinto. So let me start with a couple things. First of all, what you said, I heard you say is we have many times where things exceed and all that. The reality is we haven't fulfilled these payments. And I'm just asking to go back and get these individuals whole. They followed the process that the legislature laid out in front of them. That's what's sitting at my craw. This is righting the ship on something that we asked for industry to take care of, and then the legislature, and I don't think it's a good enough excuse personally for me to say, well, we do this all the time, we have lots of programs that run out of money and all that. Then we need to rethink how we're trying to incentivize companies. That's just a wrong way to approach this. And I don't care what industry that is. Going forward, this may not have any ramifications going forward, because maybe we do determine that once we've held these companies hold, are whole, that we've completed our fulfillment, that there isn't any more funding to go forward. I understand that. But we should at least get everybody up to what we committed to and then be able to go forward.
Was maybe just
Sure,
quickly.
yeah, sure.
Thank you. So, Chair Krisha, is it a legal obligation or like a moral obligation? I mean, because I guess I'm a little confused. Like, I mean, is there something in the law that you're saying the state violated, that the state was required to make payments and then payments weren't made? I mean, or is it just sort of you're saying that the companies had an expectation? I'm trying to understand what you're saying.
Chair Krisha.
Yes. Yeah, I'll just say yes. I'll start there. I mean, if we're putting programs together, we pass bills and we promise funding for that, but then we don't fulfill those obligations, I don't know what realm that falls into, but to me, that's just wrong.
Yeah.
Chair Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I mean, we can maybe talk more offline, but I could think there's a lot of areas I can think of in child welfare and many other areas where, there's we enact programs and we certainly want to have as much funding as we possibly can for them. But I think from just the very limited information I have about the program, because it's not really in our budget area, but it seems like it's a program that, it was clear each year there was a certain amount of money allocated to it, and when those funds ran out, they ran out. So in any case, clearly further conversations to be had, but thank you for making the committee aware of the program. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Other member questions at this point? Again, this is, I appreciate you bringing this to us because, again, I happen to have an issue very similar to this back with the Benson biomass plant where they changed the contracts, changed everything well into the program, and it should never have been terminated 10 years before it was. And it cost a lot of investors a lot of money back in our area. So this is important that we do step up and we fulfill those obligations that we said we were going to do. So seeing no other member questions, Chair Krisha, final comments to your bill.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members. So let me just read a couple of quick things. And as Chair Pinto was alluding, if we're looking for ways to not fulfill some of the things we put together, and I understand that with programs all the time. I'm not buying into that, saying that's the right thing to do. This is a program that was put out there with bipartisan support, lots of good ideas, and has gone through all the rigors of auditing. I just want to read one thing from the OLA's fiscal year 24 report. Reviewing the agri-growth research and innovation bioincentive program to examine the policies and procedures. Upon reviewing all the 55 payments for accuracy, eligibility, timeliness, and compliance with requirements, no significant items were found. Through all of those audits, these folks did exactly what they were asked to do in order to get this incentive, and we fell short of funding on that. However you want to look at that gap, but in my mind, what I'm bringing forward to you is, are we going to continue with the precedent of dangling a carrot and then pulling it back too soon? When we ask industry to respond to the problems that we see, I think the least we can do is follow through on here's the investments and here's the incentives that can follow for that. They're putting people, time, jobs. I mean, everything we talk about, workforce shortages, innovation, all of those we ask industry to do over and over and over, which creates investment and expenditures on their side. And then we say, my bad. I would hope you would consider this bill.
Thank you, Chair Krisha, for your bill. The chair will renew his motion that House File 3217 as amended be laid over for further consideration. Members, all those in, we're just going to lay the bill over. So thank you. We don't need to vote on that. So thank you very much, Chair Krisha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, members.